It's live time. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another WineShark Wednesday. It is I, your host, WineShark, here on a rather warm October Wednesday. Kind of less fun than it used to be. I was having a very nice fall for the last couple of weeks, and now it got kind of warm. So, I'm sure it'll get back down to where it needs to be, but welcome to Texas. This is the kind of stuff we get all the time. Say hello to Mr. Teach and Miss David and Mary, collectively. The Thomas family, right? Anyway, sorry, my bad. Anyway, hello everybody. Happy Wednesday. It's going to be a fun show today. I've been eager to see you guys. So anyway, with just talking about what's new in the usual early part of the segment here, October is indeed upon us. I've been very pleased to be working on a lot of fall-themed stuff. It's probably my favorite season of the year, and it's harvest time, so there's lots going on in the wine world, and there's lots going on in the social world, and hey, there's Miss Shenan and Miss Donna. All right. So yeah, fall is freaking awesome, and I love it. And so we got lots of fun stuff in store for you, and we're gonna be sharing stuff all week. So I've also been playing around a little bit more with layering and video stuff. I don't know if you guys had a chance to check out the latest video on the YouTube channel called The Grid, which is about the Quartermaster Sommelier's tasting grid for certified sommeliers. So it's a highly technical topic, basically talking about how we do deductive blind tasting, the physical way that they measure you and test you, and some of the pros and cons, the cool parts with that, and of course, my personal take on it, but it is a very interesting topic, if you ask me. I mean, it's one of those weird, cool combinations of both talent and skill, and it is, again, it's kind of doesn't have a lot of practical application, but go watch the video, go check it out. It'd be pretty awesome. So, anyway, today's topic is going to be awesome. We're going to talk about the practical cellar. I've got this question in several formats from different folks, and some of them who are not do not consume alcohol, not drinkers, but they like to entertain, and they want to know, what to set up, how to set up their own home bar appropriately, so for specifically with wine, but also if you're just getting into the game, if you have decided that you're new to wine, or if you're just getting into the world of wine, or even if you've just never really thought about keeping wine on hand for the purpose of entertainment, that's going to be our focus today. So let's frame our exercise first. Let's put some boundary lines here. This is going to be a practical guide to having wine on hand with the intention of drinking it, not collecting it and not aging it for special occasions. There's an implicit assumption here that you are storing wine for service to others. Otherwise, you could just stock a case of your favorite wine and move on with your life. Okay, this is about providing flexibility. This is about providing wine for occasions where you have what you need ready on hand without having to make a special trip to the grocery store and or liquor store. I don't know what you keep in your refrigerator and pantry to keep ready for random entertaining of guests, but you get my point. The idea is to have a good selection of wine that at the drop of a hat you're ready to entertain. Okay, so we're going to cover a couple different budgetary levels with this, and just kind of talk overall about some of I'm going to give you specific grape varieties rather than specific wines, but I'm going to talk about each of those kind of in turn. So we'll start with the basics. Okay, the basics. My budget here, we're thinking about $150 or less. Okay, so somewhere in that range. Very reasonable starting place, if you ask me. This is, first off, we're going to begin by not spending a lot on storage. Okay, as I said, we're not looking for long-term storage here anyway. We really just want a place to put the wine out of the way and keep it organized. So spend $10 on a wine rack at your local Big Lots or IKEA or whatever, and find a nice dark location in a temperature invariant part of your home. I suggest a hall closet or something like that, and boom, you've got a wine cellar. Okay, so you don't need to spend a lot of money on storage solutions at this stage. So that's our place, that's our storage. Our entertainment scope here is in the 4 to 6 guest range, the small dinner party range. Okay, so This is ideal if you're, if you're, single, or just in a relationship, or just have, it's you and a roommate, or you and a significant other. You live in an apartment, you live in your first house. This is the easy get started plan. Okay, that's kind of where our scope is for this. So if you think about when I talk about wine and wine pricing, that's going to factor, of course, into budget. So we have to at least touch on that topic. You've heard me say many, many times that $15 to $25 point is kind of a sweet spot when it comes to wine, where you're starting to get a hold of wine that I would consider reasonable quality, but you're not blowing the bank for a lot of extra stuff like marketing and prestige and rarity and things like that. So doing a little simple math, 6 bottles at $15 is only $90 for a wine budget. We've already spent 10 on a wine rack, so that puts us at 100. Let's round it up. I said 150 is a good budget here. If you add a bit for flexible numbers, either going below that line to $10 or above that line to say 20, we could easily get 8 to 9 bottles from the $10 to $20 per bottle price range here, especially considering usually at $6 or 6 bottles we're going to get a discount anyway. So that's our frame point. Okay, we're aiming at 8 or 9 bottles. This is a good flexible point to begin with. And we're going to start with some things with the premise of we need maximum flexibility for that 8 or 9. So we're going to start with some what I call easy wins. These are my no-brainer. You should keep on hand. They're crowd pleasers across the board. And whether you like wine or not, these are kind of the things I would recommend. And that is, on the red side, we're going to talk about Gamay-based wines. So Beaujolais. All right, a nice little Beaujolais Village or a Morgon, or is going to run you right around $15, and it's that perfect light, easy entry-level red. A Pinot Noir. We're going to want something on that. This is probably aim at that $20 point. Spend a little bit here, but get a good, reasonable California or New Zealand Pinot Noir, and now we're going to get a little bit more robust for food purposes, a little bit more oomph than our Gamay, but again, a very solid, pleasing palate across the board for red and white wine lovers. And then last, my favorite multi-tool in the middle wine world, Shenan Blanc, very likely from Vouvray. This wine is the underappreciated balance point between bright acidity and sweetness and body and complexity. It's that holy trinity of all of those things in a nice semi-sweet or off-dry style. And I've rarely encountered a wine drinker of any scrap who doesn't really enjoy this wine. I mean, even if they tend to like bolder stuff, they're like, wow, this has got a lot going on. Or even if they're brand new to wine, they really appreciate the floral and fruity nature of the wine. So there's 3. Let's round out. For those are our easy wins. These are kind of our solid core. We want something in that bold red category. Usually we're thinking Cabernet Sauvignon here. It's the most popular red wine in the world for a reason. So we go Cab, or this is, if I want something on the bolder side here though. So this is Cabernet Sauvignon, maybe Cabernet Franc from California. This is, and again, get a little bit more. You can get a little bit more exotic with your big reds here, but this is Petit Syrah, Petit Verdot, Tannat. I want a big, bold red wine here. Okay. Then we're gonna pick up a bottle of full-bodied white. Okay, this is the opposite side of the scale, but on the white wine grape varietals. Chardonnay or Rhone blends here, so which are Rousson and etc. blends from the Northern Rhone, or Viognier blends from up there, and Chardonnays are where we're going to sit. These are full-bodied, full intensity white wines that are good for people that like that particular style. Then we're going to get crisp Sauvignon Blanc or possibly Pinot Grigio, your choice. What we're looking for here is a high acid white, something that is great for seafood, sharp dishes, or people who happen to like that nice little acid bite. Sauvignon Blanc from New Zealand here is almost a no-brainer if you ask me. Again, very much on that crowd-pleasing style, and it's a seafood super performer. Next up, we want a mid to bold red. Okay, somewhere in between our Pinot Noir and our Cabernet Sauvignon, we want to fit that line. This is your Zinfandel, Tempranillo, Malbec, Merlot line. Any one of those grapes, you pick a favorite of yours and go from there. This is basically that kind of middle of the road round red, kind of my personal favorite style if you ask me, but that's definitely a hole you want to fit forward in there. And then lastly, we want something on the sweeter side of our white style. So we want Auslese Rieslings, Gewürztraminers, something like that. I wouldn't go so far as to say fully sweet, like say Moscato d'Asti, maybe a Muscat Blanc, kind of something like that. But we want something. I mean, Riesling is probably the real home that we're looking for here. This is for your very timid folks, and you're basically bringing them into a very easy entry level of white wine. So there are your basics, right? I mean, I guarantee you that with a decent one decent shopping trip, you could easily knock out 8 or 9 bottles, a rack for $150, and be really, really solid. Now let's talk about longevity here. Remember, we're aiming at this as actually, hang on. Let me start over here. Pick things in this lineup that you're going to drink. Okay. But expect to save them for the occasion of entertaining. Meaning, don't put your weekly drinking wines in this list, okay? That's a grocery expense, not a luxury. That's the stuff you're gonna keep and drink and have all around. Put that separate away. This little particular rack is for entertaining. Keep it as that for that purpose, in case of emergency dinner party, break glass. Okay, if your willpower does fail and you poach something from your little stash, get a replacement quickly. But understand that buying at 6-pack or case discounts is going to save you money. So replacing single bottles is unwise. So I strongly resist you to resist that urge. It's really only in need of a desperate wine emergency, and I know they do exist, where you're going to really get into, okay, I'm going to get into the dinner stash. Okay, so that's our basic level. I mean, that's, I think, really wonderfully achievable for just about anybody. And believe me, that wine list right there is probably better than you're going to see at most restaurants, just by varietals alone. I guarantee you I could pick some quality selections from either a distributor, retailer, or even a grocery store that would meet most of these needs. So let's talk about spending a little bit more. Now we're gonna up our budget here. We're gonna add $300 more to our budget, so a total price of about $450. Okay, so we're already, everything in the 150 package already included. The basics are already there. But we might have to spend a little bit more for storage because we're going to double our quantity. We're going to get up to the point where our entertainment scope goes beyond just the dinner party, but we could actually host a small cocktail style party for 6 to 12 guests. Or if we wanted to pull out second bottles of the same thing for the purposes of a 6 to 8 person dinner, we could do so. So maybe another wine rack here, but we're not, again, we're still here. Get something durable, get something inexpensive, and it's simply for the purpose of holding bottles. It's not for show. It stays in the closet where it belongs, and its job is simple. So don't spend money there. So at this level instead, what we're doing is we're keeping more wine on hand, and we're going to expand our flexibility. Okay, so and as I said, we're also doubling down on our entertainment profile. We're increasing the number of people we can safely accommodate. So now we're going to go after, we're going to fill out and round out Willi Gluckerstein's food-friendly 7, right? These 7 types of grapes that are the multi-tools of the wine varietal world. Wines that have good medium to high acidity, have low, at least to some degree of sweetness, low to no tannins, low to mid alcohol, and are fruit forward in nature, so they go with a wide variety of foods. This gives us kitchen flexibility, and these wines tend to be very popular amongst wine drinkers and new to wine drinkers as well. So Riesling, Shenan Blanc, and Sauvignon Blanc are the 3 whites. Cabernet Franc, Pinot Noir, Barbera, and Gamay are the 4 reds. Notice that we're only adding 3 new grapes. So we're only adding we may or may not, we've already had Riesling, right? But we may or may not. But we're only adding Cabernet Franc and Barbera to that list, right? We've already got a Gamay, a Pinot Noir, a Sauvignon Blanc, a Chenin Blanc, possibly a Riesling. So we're only talking about another couple bottles added into that mix to fill out the 7, okay? Then we're going to expand our regional selection. Although, if the above list was done well, you probably already have 5 or 6 different countries represented in your wine cellar. You've got the US, you've got France, you've got Germany, you've got Italy, you've got Spain, right? So, possibly, depending on how you chose, for instance, if you chose a Tempranillo and then an American Cab Franc, you've got a pretty good, wide selection there. So, that's a really good starting place. That's a nice international New World, Old World palette. You know, you've really got a pretty capable list there. But what you really want to do here is make sure that you've got 2 bottles of everything at hand. So we're talking around, you know, maybe total of 20 to 24 bottles on hand at any given time. That's a pretty respectable little cellar. Again, that's enough that you could easily throw a nice cocktail party and not even put a dent much in it, or just go and buy it, you know, get out 6 bottles and then go get 6 more. You know, really, you know, move a unit of fire out and then replace it. So, so next up, if you got to that level and that's something that's stable and you're able to keep it for a while, we'll talk about longevity now. So now we're talking about having a little bit more wine on hand. Remember that most commercial wines are ready to drink at the time that you purchase them. But generally speaking, most of them will last, I would say, anywhere between 2 to 3 years on your shelf. If you're keeping your wine out of direct sunlight, you know, in a temperature stable environment, away from odors and away from vibration, your wines are going to last pretty well, and you're pretty safe to have them stuck in there. Oh yeah, the other thing that we're going to add at this level is we're going to bring in rosé wines. This is where you might have had that in that first one because a lot of people do favor them, but this is one that's a little bit more seasonal. I would recommend for usually getting rosés from Mediterranean area, which basically are about kind of a year in, year out kind of thing. Although some of them last 2 or more, just depends. So anyway, now that we're past that level, now we're going to make a little bit more of an investment. So now we're talking about $750 or more in your total wine investment. This is, you know, if you include everything that we've already said, we're going to make this the base concept that all of the other things still apply, both in style, variety, and quantity. We've still got those at our core. We may expand to a few more esoteric selections. We may decide that we want more than one of the same category. So we might want Pinot Grigio and Sauvignon Blanc on hand. We might decide that, you know, a lot of our guests really like that, you know, that middle red range. So we want to demonstrate Zinfandel and Tempranillo and Malbec. Or we want to get a little bit of worldwide going, right? We want a little comparative. I want a New Zealand Pinot Noir and a French Pinot Noir. So you can start playing around a little bit with greater quantities where you can dig deeper into an individual spot without compromising the overall flexibility of your collection. But at this stage, the next thing you want to do, if this is something that you're into and at any length of time, expand into a professional wine storage solution. Get a temperature-controlled, purpose-built wine storage system. $200 to $300 will get you about 20 to 24 storage capacity. That's plenty, right? That's what I have and I've been using for forever. Now, you know, working WineShark professionally now, I actually push the limits of that at sometimes when I purchase, you know, a month's worth of wine at a time, in addition to the things that I keep on hand. So that's a little, you know, I could probably stand to grow, but you're probably not, you know, drinking 5 bottles of wine or tasting 5 bottles of wine a week. So, and if you are, bravo. So, you know. So anyway, Teach had a question here. How do you mix in your favorites that you'd like to share? Shouldn't that be a case purchase or a per bottle purchase? Well, it depends on what you're talking about, Teach. Are you talking about just sharing as in you want to give somebody a bottle and you want them to taste and enjoy it? Or is it just the perfect example? In my case here, like I said, I separate the things that I will drink on a regular basis. Let's say my favorite Zinfandel. I'm going to keep a couple bottles of that on hand at all times simply because I might decide, hey, I want to have a bottle of wine. On the other hand, I could also integrate this. The way that I'm expressing this collection is that it is separate from that particular thing. So it really depends on what your need is. I would say that if it's something that you always drink and you're happy to share when somebody comes over and they just have a glass of wine, put that in your grocery expenses. You're probably going to have one on hand all the time anyway. Just make sure you always have 2 on hand. Problem solved, right? So you could easily buy a case and store it in the exact same way. I mean, and literally in this case, I mean, put the case, the box itself, in the closet near the storage solution, call it even. Because you're not intending to store it for a long period of time, or you're not going to, you know, you don't have to worry about putting it in a wine storage solution. That's where we're going to get into a little bit later when we finish talking about the expansion here. So we'll touch on that. So once you go ahead and get a basic wine wine storage solution. Your entertainment scope is now about the same, but what you're now being able to do is store wine for a length of time at a ready-to-use temperature at a moment's notice. This is definitely the perfect case of, in case of emergency dinner party break. You don't even have to break the glass. All you have to do is open the thing, right? For party purposes. So Teach says for party purposes, for example, Reba likes a rosé. Should we have a case to store for gathering or just buy a need? I don't think that unless you entertain a lot, buying a case of something is a pretty interesting commitment. And remember, you're not getting a discount for a case at most places that you wouldn't under a 6-bottle mix. I would always just decide, okay, what's the average we're going to need for an entertainment event? If we're going to have a little house party, we usually go through 2-3 bottles. Cool. Keep 2 or 3 bottles on hand, right? I mean, if a case is what your parties demand, whoop whoop, go, rock out with your rosé self. I think it's more of a personal dial-in. The key thing here is we're not talking about storing things for long periods of time. Don't buy more than you're going to use in a reasonable time period. Now, again, that might be over the course of a year, but don't worry about it as I'm going to sit on this and I've got it as a wine investment. Or heaven forbid you open up your wine closet and go, honey, we have to throw a party. We've got too much wine. I mean, that happens. So, hey, Mr. Joe Nash, back on from Tennessee. Welcome back. We're talking about wine, starting up your own wine cellar. You're going to have to rewind in case you missed here. So some good advice on getting started. So now that we've got a wine storage solution, this is our third and final level. We can also do some cool stuff to now make your wine collection kind of unique. In addition to spending money on that wine storage device, that fridge of your choice, this is where I want you to start thinking about stuff that's unique, that you can show your guests that you like, that they're not going to find at the store. Okay, this is your opportunity to kind of show off, because anybody can walk in. I mean, while you're sharing a wine that anybody has access to is cool, right? And you're like, hey, check it out. I got this at Total Wine. It's $20. You'll love it. Knock it out. That's a great way to share. On the other hand, you also might want to throw something special into the mix, something that's not readily available, that may not have had an opportunity, especially if you have wine-loving friends and they like all the same wines you do. So now this is the reason to start with club wines, either exclusively from wineries who do club stuff only, basically they don't sell to retail, or club only exclusives from membership clubs from your favorite winery. For instance, if you're a member of, say, the Sterling Wine Club, you can get access to as a club member to selections that they only sell at the winery rather than into retail. You get those same things. Michael David, a lot of places. I mean, you name it, they probably have it. But I mean, now I'm talking about wine labels that you can find widely, but by being a club member, you're getting stuff that most other people aren't. You get the opportunity to share those things with your friends and really kind of have a fun impact statement on that. As an interesting side note, that's something that I do not do in any of my shows. One of the things that I'm very careful with is when I teach wine tastings, I'm very careful to make sure that the wines that I have are widely available. I don't like to bring things to an education event and say, here's a bunch of wine that you can't get. That makes no sense to me, right? If you're here, but if you come to dinner at my place, I might pull out something that you can't really readily get very easily because I want to share it with you because it's a special experience. So understand that those are two different modalities in the way that I think about wine. There's one thing to be an educator and to try and bring you things to enjoy and to help you get into the wine world, as opposed to just being a good host and an entertainer and saying, hey, look what I found, right? That's a fun thing to do, especially if your friends have an appreciation with wine. There's a running joke that was a cartoon, I think, that Madeline Paquette put up there, and that was it shows this stick figure of two different cases of wine. It's it's the wine person going in, and there are some friends coming over, and they're reaching and trying to decide, are you going to get from the case of everyday wines or the wine geek wines, right? Things that you're going to have to share with people who will really appreciate it, or things for people who just, hey, I just want a glass of wine, man. And that's without stigma, right? That's not judgmental. It's just simply you don't necessarily, if somebody really doesn't enjoy the kind of thing, they also may not dig on it. Hang on, dude, check out this Greek Assyrtiko. You're gonna love it. It's totally weird. That's not what somebody who's looking for your average Merlot is going to be enjoying. So know your audience, read the room. You know what I'm saying? So the other alternative here is because now that you have a wine storage solution, you can start holding on to things past that 3-year mark pretty easily. So now you could alternatively pick up 3 of the same bottle of a single vintage of something you wanted to commemorate with and spend a couple $100 on that. Go back and see my video on storing wine strategy and storing for special occasions. 3 is about the minimum, I would say, but if you've got the space, depending on how much you've got, you could put 3 to 6 bottles of something in there that you're going to store for 5, 10, 15 years, 20 years or longer. And now this is that point where you can start that little seed, right? Now, past this, you can start to spend as much as you want when it comes to your wine storage solutions. Build a wine cellar in your house, move to Minnesota, whatever the case may be, buy a really big wine cooler, wine fridge, go from there. So, but that's the basics. That's the practical stuff. I mean, if you really think about the grapes and the styles of wine that you have available, what I tried to do with this list is give you an opportunity to say, hey, even somebody like me, a real dedicated wine geek, walks across your path and you just reach into your little secret stash and be able to pull out some of these wines and understand how to wield them at the dinner table. You're going to be in great shape, and it's an easy, achievable thing. It's something that shouldn't be intimidating, and it's one of those things that I think that this is the first time we've really talked about it in this context, but something that I will definitely be bringing up in classes in other specific cases, talking about the starting your wine geek hobby. So Reba says she dreams of a surprise supper party of get-togethers. Yes, exactly. Just one day come home, surprise dinner party. Woo woo. Hope something's thawed up from the freezer. So, all right. Now, all month, it is our spooky store grab here at WineShark in honor of the month of October. And as a matter of fact, a bunch of my haunt friends who, sadly, due to the situations in the world right now, many of the people in the entertainment and haunt industry are out of work right now because, well, sickness sucks. So some friends of mine used to have a tradition whereby on Friday or Saturday nights they would pop open a bottle of wine with a particularly spooky theme, and in order to honor their once tradition, we are doing the same thing here on WineShark. So shout out to all of my dark hour friends, and all of my original sinners that work at the Terra del Monstrum. So anyway, all right. So we got today's selection. Spooky dooky. It's Ghost Pines. This is their Ghost Pines Red Blend. This again, we overall with the grocery store grab, in this case the spooky store grab, we are aiming to help get the best value per dollar for wines found at non-specialty and non-big box retailers. They are chosen without prior research, based on their label only, and we do a label-focused reading. As if we were a layman, what information can we find on the bottle that make it a good choice that stands out amongst others? And how do we make sure that we reward wineries that give us good information rather than just a bunch of marketing nonsense? Now, Ghost Pines Red Blend. I did purchase this at Total Wine, a big box store. However, I have seen this wine several times, and many times, in fact, in grocery stores elsewhere. They just didn't happen to have it on hand at my local grocery store, and I knew I wanted to feature the label, the brand name, for the theme of the month, because that's not something one can just hope for. So, that being said, Ghost Pines. Pretty fun little winery here. Their label, they are doing a really good job at our WineShark labeling process, right? Well, we want to see on a good labels, we want to see what's in the bottle. If it's a blend like this one is, we want to see the variety and percentage of grapes used. We want to know where the grapes are grown. The more specific, the better. We want to know that on the label what the wine tastes like with flavor words. We want specific food pairings if they offer food pairings at all. And of course, who is the winery and who are they really? Oftentimes we want to make sure that if there's any second label stuff going on when it comes to wineries, we always kind of want to know who they really belong to. Can sometimes have an effect on the way that they do their wine business. Anyway, that being said, the Ghost Pines, the label is moderate spooky because there's fog in it and trees with no leaves on them, which by definition in October makes things spooky. The red blend here, right off the bat on the label, 62% Napa County, 36% Sonoma County, 2% Lake County. We go, wait, what? They're blending from different regions, not just different grapes. That is kind of cool, kind of unique. They've got their 2018 name of the label, and it is their winemaker's blend. Oftentimes in California parlance, you'll hear it referred to as a meritage, or meritage. It's actually the way it's pronounced. It's not meritage. Meritage rhymes with heritage, and you may also see the word cuvée on there. That basically means blend. Okay, so Ghost Pines Red Blend, here from the back of the label. In 1964, Louis P. Martini, son of Napa pioneer Louis M. Martini, well, gotta get our P's and our M's correct, purchased 178 acres of land, which, well, in 1964, not wildly expensive. So 178 acres of land, which the Martini family developed into a vineyard they named Ghost Pines, as a tribute to the native gray pines, which at dusk appear to hover, solitary and ghost-like throughout the coastal valleys. This is, by the way, due to the fog. Ghost Pines Red Blend draws from multiple wine-growing counties to create a wine as superior as the Ghost Pines tree itself. Though this wine exhibits layered notes of blackberry, blueberry, and brown spice, a smooth mouthfeel and round tannins create a long and complex finish. So, while they talked to us about the actual regions, they didn't talk to us about the grapes, which I find interesting. The reason I would say that is because it is unlikely that next year they're going to have 62-36-2 as their same blend, meaning label printing costs are one of the reasons you don't see variations or details printed sometimes for specific vintage years. Okay, that's an extra cost that some wineries choose not to go to. But the fact that they didn't do that, I wonder why they choose not to actually put on the wine list label. Could be because the number and variety of grapes is high. But from these here places, we know that Napa, Sonoma, and Lake County, and it's a red blend. So we're talking about kind of the usual suspects here. We're talking about Cabernet Sauvignon, Cabernet Franc, Zinfandel, Merlot, perhaps a little bit of Carignan, Petit Verdot, etc. Those would be Petit Syrah maybe. Those are kind of our usual beasts within those range. Pinot Noirs usually don't get blended in stuff like this, so you can leave the big Pinot N off the list. Now, as far as our label is concerned, so they give us the percentage of grapes from where, but not from what. So not good, but not bad. Where are they grown? Well, they were very detailed about that, very specific as a matter of fact, although not specific as to the regional of those counties. And that's a pretty broad area. This is because, again, they're sourcing grapes from different parcels of land, and there's probably too much to list when it comes to some from this ranch and that valley and this peak and that dude, whomever. Okay. What does the wine taste like? Great use of their flavor words, however, right? We talk about blackberry, blueberry, and brown spice, right? So we're talking about cinnamon, cardamom, mace, that kind of thing. All the baking ends, often referred to as the baking spices. Then, of course, a smooth mouthfeel with round tannins create a long and complex finish. Now, again, not a lot of flavor words in that section, but giving us an idea of what the wine structure is like. Bravo. They avoided food completely as far as they're concerned with this wine, which is something we're seeing more and more. Again, some people delve into it, some don't. I think the fact that it is a pretty nuanced topic that some people are starting to avoid it. So I'm trying to level set my expectations that if it comes to specific food pairings, that shows an exemplary use of your wine skills, right? If you're a good winemaker and you can do that thing. So let's figure out what it tastes like. Let's see. We kind of answer three basic questions. Is it well executed? Is it on style? And is it worth the price tag? I'll usually kind of run through an abbreviated version of the grid here, but I'll tell you, color-wise, it is a very deep garnet color rounding into the world of purple. Again, expresses some concept of this is probably a Cab Zin and a decent amount of Petit Syrah in here. On the nose, definitely hitting its blueberry pie note right off the label there. I very much like the dark blue and black fruit. If it's going to talk about blackberries, they're probably already in the jam or in the stew pot kind of thing, right? They're already doing that reduction, getting ready for the pie or cobbler, which would, of course, dovetail well with whatever oak treatment that they've used for this to get the brown spice profile, right? We talk about things like vanilla and cinnamon and the baking spice range. Those are very complementary to flavors of fruit that are rather than fresh, but are a little bit more on that processed or stewed type thing, that cooked fruits rather than fresh fruits, because, well, we're baking, therefore cooking, right? There's definitely, it's got a little bit of heat to the nose, right? It's got the little sense of its alcohol. My guess here, not to wait till my mouth feel, but I'm guessing this is probably pushing 14. Then there's a reasonable bit of oak in there, but not overwhelming. And the more you smell, the more you kind of get through to those blue fruit notes and down into the wine. So let's give it a go. Okay, it's a big boy. It is all around the mouth. They are very accurate with their soft tannin description. The tannins come through, but they don't spike into that gritty sensation. So they're what we call that refined tannin. You know, they're very fine or fine grained. Smooth is the other word we would use. Definitely carries more of a dark plum flavor and blueberries once we get it in the mouth. In other words, it has a slightly sweeter smell than it does on the flavor profile. Gets into a little bit more of that stony sensation we get with a fully ripe plum, or even a nice blackberry jam or compote, right? Very, very honest, real clean, very said all around the mouth with that wonderful tannic structure. And again, it lingers just a little bit, but it doesn't hold on to your tongue too tight. It's not that mouth dryingly, astringent sensation we get from high tannin wines. But it definitely has a structure. I like it. Not getting much of it in the baking spice range though. The smell has a little bit of that, but the oak treatment doesn't really come through with that in the mouth. That it's not getting those tertiary flavors to really balance that out. So it doesn't have that plush complexity. Price point for this, by the way, is right at $20. So we're setting our expectation with that in mind. But let's take a look for where they did their ABV. They're hiding it on the bottle. Red wine, oh yeah, 15.1% alcohol by volume. That is a fuck you, I didn't like to be here on a Monday kind of red wine. So yeah. And Shannon says, she doesn't buy me the watch you drink used to make me dizzy. Well, this is where you really got to enjoy your Wednesday, Shannon. Let me tell you, this is work, and I take my work seriously, and I'm here to share with you guys. And I know that sometimes that you end up having to work as well during the show, which I'm sorry that you do. I know that you'll take this knowledge home, though. Enjoy a bottle of Ghost Pines with my authority. This is delightful. It is. Is it well executed? Absolutely. Wine's made. It is a powerful number, though. This is a classic California heavy hitter. It has got lots of intense flavor and lots of intense alcohol to go along with it. Again, the alcohol doesn't burn out your mouth, but it definitely comes through on the nose. Is it on style? This one's the funky one. This is always a question that I find difficult to answer when it comes to red blends, because red blends are winemaker style. It's really dealer's choice. That being said, when it comes to what the broad category of expected styles are from California Reds, yeah, it's got all the usual suspects, right? It is not wildly refined and elegant and interesting and complicated like calculus or anything. But it's a straightforward, fun show. I definitely like what they're doing here. Is it worth the price tag? Absolutely. $20. This is a get what you pay for kind of thing. It can, again, actually, with a discount, this is actually around. Can be anywhere around $15, $16. And so this is usually that it's well positioned against its peer and competitors. So cannot complain at all. First good success with our spooky store grab. I love it. Shannon says, I liked it too. Won't pretend the label didn't catch my attention. Sometimes fun Halloween labels lead me to a real stinker. It's true, they can be. And when we pulled the trigger a little bit early at the end of last month when we tried the Curious Beast Red Blend. This, by the way, a much better example of a red blend. Although you are spending a little bit more on it too, right? You're spending about $5 to $8 more for the bottle, but you're definitely getting what you pay for, in my opinion. So we are going to try another Curious Beast a little bit later in the month. I will keep it a surprise because that's me. Yes, the Day of the Dead motif is definitely the Curious Beast. It's got the sugar skulls on there. That is their theme this year, and they kind of retheme it every year or every couple of years. So they've got several different wines out there. So good stuff. Those are again they're fun to drink. They're not an awful experience, but they're not something I think you should that I would end up saying, hey, you guys should really go try this, right? Whereas Ghost Pines, totally will. I've had their Zinfandel before, by the way, as far as the brand is concerned, but I've never had their red blend. Their Zinfandel, pretty rockin'. Again, at the price point, well worth it. And that's, I think, comes in at a 13 to 15. So really good hitting that point there. Math and wine do not mix. No, Mary, you are correct. But again, when I say complicated like math, it can be. The only math we need to understand is wine math. That is how many glasses per bottle. And then again, it depends who's pouring it. Repeat for the crowd, single serving size, right? So anyway, awesome, great show, great example of our wine here. I can't complain at all. So open the Q&A. What questions do you guys have? Open field. We talked any questions about the topic before about starting your collection storage. We had a couple during the run there, but if you are catching up and have any questions about how to get your wine collection started, please let me know. Or if you have questions about anything at all, mostly wine related. I may not answer just anything at all, but especially math questions, as Mary pointed out. So Barb says that she bought the bottle for Linnea. She's doing a Day of the Dead mantle for Halloween. Oh, very nice. See, sometimes we have to buy the wine bottle just for the label, not for the wine inside, but because we literally need the bottle for another purpose. So hey, they're at least winning at that stage. So not a bad thing. Anyway, so any other questions? We got I can banter on here. 1 glass per bottle. She agrees. Exactly. That is single serving size. 750 milliliters, 25.37 ounces. So approximately for a 5-ounce serving, you get 5 glasses. Most American style, we usually only get 4.5. So we don't believe in halves, so that makes 4. Ta-da. You and me. Shannon says she has a tradition of a glass of red Halloween at sundown, and I'm watching very closely at this spooky selection series. Excellent. Well, I am very excited about our Halloween and our All Hallows Eve celebration this year as well. My very in tune lunar sister there, you know that it is a blue moon on Halloween this year, the second full moon within a 28-day period, or within a month rather, not within a 28-day period, because it is a lunar period. But yes, the second lunar full service during the month, and that's going to be awesome. Full moon on Halloween and a blue moon. So that's very cool. So yes, you have this and 3 more selections, at least for the spooky theme that we're doing. And that makes, since I went to Segway school, I can use that to say, we talk about our rest of our coming soon. What else is going on in October, Glenn, you might ask? And I would say, well, my fine and fearless guests, here's what's going on in October. Number 1, coming up on this Friday, we have Offbeat Reds. Reds from places you don't normally associate with, well, you may not normally associate with wine. We're going to do some wines from Bulgaria. We're going to do some wines from Uruguay. We're going to do some wines from Greece. Well, Grecian wine, something that a lot of people do think about. It's not very popular in the U.S. these days, and most of the styles and varieties of wine are not well known. If you can name more than 3 Greek wine varieties right now, I will send you a special prize. Your Google Foo has to be very quick because you have about 16 seconds. So anyway, the offbeat wine thing is going to be fun. We're going to try some wines from a really cool place. So the next week after that, it is time for Wine and Cheese 5. No particular theme this time except for fall harvest stuff. So we're going to be doing kind of Wine and Cheese 5 6 is likely to be entertainment cheeses and how to entertain with cheeses. In other words, cheese spread, not spreads, but make a cheese plate, if you will. Anyway, then we got Wines of Fall on the 23rd, and then the Harvest Special on the 30th. So Wines of Fall is a wine style show. 3 different wines, strictly focusing on wines that are kind of fall flavored, fall themey. Then the Harvest Special is a food and wine special, and it's actually going to be it's already been announced. The tickets are already on sale, etc. So you can see there's 2 wines and a super duper bonus wine and bonus round, which is kind of fun. Then in November, I will probably be pleased to announce next Wednesday, we have a surprise coming up that you may go and get to see a fun little live show starring yours truly. So I will get more details about our November surprise as soon as I know them, about a month from today, Friday the 6th. So let's see. Barbara says that she's drinking a glass of Lima Pinot Noir, and its label gives a solid A. Flavor, words, good pairing, where the grapes are grown in the whole world. Shannon commented that the scallop and bacon chowder soup looked amazing. Yes, for the fall soup special, we had a bacon and scallops corn chowder that was wicked rocking awesome. If you guys missed that show, if you're a Patreon member, you can go back and watch the show in our archive. But one of the cool parts about doing the show with there are a list of recipes that go with it. Now, some disclosure. If cooking is not your thing, don't feel pressured to have to cook the dishes to come to the show. You're always welcome to just come along and drink the wines. You can just come along and just be a looky-loo for all I care. But if you're going to do the whole tasting with us thing, the wine is the primary component, but the food definitely comes in there as well. This being said, the soup that we had was fantastic. Really, really good. I had a couple of cool recommendations as well about how to adapt and things I learned by cooking the recipe. This is something I plan to be doing on Patreon a little bit more, and that is filtering to you guys my own lessons learned with this stuff. Not just here's a recipe I found online, but it's no, here's something I've got experience with, here's some ways to improve on it, here's some ways to dial it in, change it around. For instance, there was definitely not enough butter in that recipe kind of thing. Specifically, you take the bacon grease and you use it to sear the scallops, but right at about midway through, take a solid tablespoon of butter in that hot pan, start browning it and spooning it over those scallops the whole time. You not only get that brown on there, but when you bring that brown butter on top of that corn chowder, heavens to Murgatroyd. Just saying, really awesome stuff. So you should come to those shows. Bravo for those that did. What else we got? And Mom said that even for a non-chowder, non-corn person. You know what? Throw enough bacon and scallops in anything, and you can really pretty much solve any problem. So, Reba says she's not drinking anything because she's having Skittles, and that is not a beer or wine comparison that I've had either, Miss Reba. No matter what flavor of Skittles you've got, they're not really suited for wine nor beer purposes. So, I appreciate your judicious use of food pairing. Although I guarantee you, over at the Instagram channel, Will It Pair, he's tried at some point in time. So, a whole type of thing going on there. Anyhow, so the show's coming up. I mean, it's fall harvest time. There's so much going on. It's a great time, and it's one of my favorite examples in the wine world about how all of this stuff comes to a head. I mean, all my people who I know in the wine world are working fast and furious right now in one form or another, whether they're in harvest or in process or managing other people's or just all the stuff that goes on to get this stuff to head. And that harvest process isn't a single time event, right? Depending on where you are in the world, depending on your weather, depending on the types of grapes you've got, even one winemaker may have 3 harvests over the course of 5 weeks, depending on what their hang time for their fruit is. So it's kind of a fun and interesting thing to watch and to observe as to how people get their harvests done. Plus, you see a lot of the cool pictures coming in from the crush pads where all the fruit's being brought in and laid out, or old traditional methods where you got people with galoshes on running around with shovels and big piles of grapes, and it's very traditional. You're gonna love it. So. Yes, as a preview, since though we do have several of our foodies in the room right now, the Harvest Special show, the current list, the actual of recipes that we are going to explore here. Let me get it opened up in Eventbrite for you so I can actually recall what it is. Obviously, there's a lot of this stuff jumbled around in my head. A hit from a private tasting I did a while back, the sausage and apple stuffing bites. This is basically like taking your Italian sausage and your traditional Thanksgiving stuffing and giving them a little love triangle. They're spicy. They've got green apples, so they're very fall. It is a great little set. These are great things that teach you now that you're gonna. I guarantee you, if you're going to entertain family during the holidays at any time, these are wickedly cool and awesome. Easy for prep ahead too, because they reheat quite well. Then we're going to do a chicken, wild mushroom, and roasted garlic saute, because all of those words are awesome. And we're really going to talk about kind of that layering process in food, etc. Then for the optional bonus round, it's pumpkin white chocolate mousse pie. So a elegant example of taking our pumpkin pie and doing it one better. While white chocolate isn't actually a thing, it's not real. It's not real chocolate anyway. It does actually make an interesting and fluffy mousse layer to take your pie to an ethereal level. So we're going to be trying that out with some unshackled red blend, because we want to give the Prisoner Wine Company a little shout out. So that's kind of fun. So yeah, that ought to be a very interesting evening. I'm trying to decide where we're going to do it. So, because we'll be celebrating. That's on the 30th. Then you got the next night, it's Halloween. Then you've got Dia de Muertos. It's a whole All Hallows, All Saints, all things, all the time, all the cool, all my favorites. So anyway, all right. Well, anybody else have any questions? I think that's all the topics that I have for you guys. Reba says she's excited to make that pie. See, yeah, me too. I've been holding on to that recipe for some time, to say the least, because I wanted to theme it out. And you can't have pumpkin in February. It's not as cool. It's just not. I mean, you can. It's out there. It's in cans, but it's not the same at all. So, and for once and for all, it's not pumpkin spice, people. It's pumpkin pie spice. There's no spice that tastes like pumpkins. There's spice that tastes like the stuff you put in pumpkin pies. I don't understand why people have to cut shorts. Although I have been enjoying both my pumpkin pie spice creamer and my cinnamon toast crunch creamer in my coffee in the mornings. So, gotta love the fall theming. All right. So Shenan, if you're off on that Friday, you absolutely need to come to that show. You would love it. And the apple and sausage bites are amazing. I got very great reviews on those in a show that I did. I pulled them out in the summer, but even then, it's just a really good recipe. So cannot complain at all. All right, guys. Well, that is all I have for you. I'm really looking forward to the rest of the shows. Thank you guys so much for joining me at this favorite time of year. I think it is going to be amazing and really, really cool time. So grab your glasses, hug your loved ones, stay safe. In the comment section, if you guys have a chance to come back and comment for me and ask some questions down below rather than just the chat, what's in your cellar, as the phrase goes from the Visa commercial. Are you a bottle to glass sort of wine drinker? You buy it, you pour it, you drink it. Do you have a wine library or some sort of excellent collection like my friend Dave Thomas? But let me know in the comments below. Let's get a conversation started about stuff like that. And if you have questions about which wines, etc., to put in your starting collection, don't hesitate to reach out. So until next Wednesday, we will see you then. If you like what we're doing, hit that like button, subscribe. If you really like what we're doing, tell a wine-loving friend, and then subscribe to us over on Patreon. All this fabulous food and notes and stuff like that, you get an entire wine library of education over on the Patreon page with dozens of hours now of content about wine, food, and wine and cheese, and awesome stuff. So we hope you guys enjoy that, and we'll see you again. Until next time, I've been your Wine Shark. Cheers.